On page 16 of Valentin Loescher's The Complete Timotheus Bereanus, it has a section entitled Public Movements. And we get right into it. Loescher gets right into it about what is the problem that he has with pietism. I've already said it that I don't hear this in a lot of pietist scholars. Maybe it's just so obvious they don't think it is worth commenting on. But the problem I have with people saying, oh, pietism, blah, 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 you really get the impression from them that pietism is a way of thought. And so if somebody does A, B, and C, they're a pietist. If these are their beliefs. The problem is that whenever you talk about any of the pietist theologians, they were always the head of a movement. Whereas you might have some figures in church history who were simply great teachers. And they really didn't devote themselves to encouraging networks of people. What we see with many of the great pietists, and then figures after that in evangelicalism, revivalism, the holiness movement, the missionary movement. These were people we had that left a large body of work, but they were evangelists. They were on the road. They were moving. They were gathering people. They were onto something. But they were at the vanguard of a movement of many people. And often these were movements that were, the very word revival would mean that people had woken up. So the church had gone to sleep for a while. So I just think that that's something really important to keep in mind, and we should be able maybe to cut them a little slack then. These were not people who were sitting back and devising, say, oh, I think we need a new theology today. They were caught up in something. Somebody influenced them, and they were going, they were hearing other preachers, people who were part of the same movement. They were caught up in something, and that can explain a lot too. But one of the things that if you don't really know a lot about pietism studies, there are some pretty obvious things that people might miss. But a lot of the things that the Pietists got into terrible controversy over are things that, they won the fight. We all do these things now. You understand that a pastor's career could be over. That he was fired from his church, and maybe even spent a couple nights in jail before the dragoons escorted him to the border for the great sin of having a Bible study class, or looking the other way because you knew that a Bible study class would be formed. Pastors, even though they attended these Bible study classes, were in trouble. They called them conventicles. So you hear about these conventicles, and it sounds like it's a secret society. Who are these co-conspirators breathing their mystical and strange religion? These were people reading the Bible and praying about as sinister as, whatever. But in this period of history, and we don't want to laugh at these people, it was a completely different world. But we must remember, that these conventicles, and when you hear these people talking about these conventicles, and they sound terrible, terrible, they were Bible studies. They were Bible studies. Why were they afraid of Bible studies? Well, ever since Luther had to leave the Wartburg and come back in Mufti to Wittenberg and deal with Karlstadt and Münster and the Zwickau prophets, there were we call them Anabaptists and others who would go from town to town trying to preach and witness and bring others around to their understanding of Christianity. And they were often successful in stirring up the people. And ever since the time of Luther, this was many a pastor's worst fear, and still to this day in Lutheran churches. One of the reasons that people with an agenda can get pretty far in the church is because most pastors' worst fear would be that some conflict would arise in their church. They would have some extra work there, and they've all heard the horror stories about a congregational schism. But beyond that too, I wouldn't want to say anything unkind about any of my colleagues. But we're humans. We have egos. And we have a lot wrapped up in our education and our office. And don't appreciate challenges. Especially messy challenges. My opinion is that it's not a level playing field. When you have more education and more authority, it's very hard to deal with inspired Bible thumper. It takes a great deal of patience and skill and spirituality to be able to open yourself up to be at the same time guarding your sheep, but also discerning if maybe this is a lesson from God. And I don't think most people are really equal to this, because there is no training for this. Oh, there would be training if we mentored, if we all came in as young pastors, as apprentices to seasoned people and things like that, but it's an accident when those fortunate things happen. So anyway, back to Loescher and his history of the Pietist movement. And we'll start that in the next tape.